Actual ISO documents show how massive Zebec and Payroll will be. This is a huge update, so we appreciate you guys. Consider smashing that like. We're going to get into a lot of key info. This is so good to share with you. So back again with Rue on this one, and we're going to get into this. So I did share a little bit of this on the private Patreon. I want to elaborate more about this, obviously with Rue. This comes straight from Zebec, and basically it's this. It's the big announcement. Rue share this. I share this. A lot of people are sharing this right now. It is, in my humble opinion, that with this big announcement, I'm leaning towards it could be ISO 222. And I'm not a fortune teller, but like it says there, stay tuned. Big announcement, major U.S. payments integration coming next week. They posted this literally just a couple days ago. And, shout out to people like Crypto Gods X Gold. He has his own take on this and so on. And I do want to kind of highlight this because he did make some good points. He says, for example, most likely FIS, World Pay, followed by the clearinghouse, RTP. Rue's going to give his own insights about some of this. Or FedNow, certified vendor, could also be ADP, major payroll API. So for one, let's jump back for a second and talk about some of this. So the way I look at it, Rue, is it's like this. I really truly believe it's going to be ISO 222 because we have seen numerous X Spaces, Simon Babakani, some other members of the team saying, look, they are legitimately trying to get the whole thing done of ISO 222 compliance by the end of the year. Well, what better time to be compliant before the key day, the 22nd? Now, maybe they don't get it done by the 22nd, but maybe it's like on that following Monday. Whatever the case be, why not just get it done before then, before we jump more into this? What are your key thoughts? Do you agree with the posting, obviously, from Crypto God X Gold 589, or do you believe that it could be something else? Your thoughts?
I was kind of leaning in the direction of I was kind of leaning in the direction of what X Gold was saying there with like the DTCC, maybe because Simon Vepcani said he met with the DTCC when he went to Cybos. But now that you say that, and I know that the ISO deadline for the rest of the world is 11/22, it might be the ISO. But the ISO to me, like as far as like what they've done with Mika, what they've done with WageLink, to me that's already like a foregone formality. Like it's already done. Of course they can still tell us officially next week, but be that as it may, either it be ISO or it be something directly with FedNow or DTCC. Either way, I think it'd be huge news for Zebec. But to be very, very clear, my thought is that it's something with DTCC/slash FedNow.
Well, could very well be. And all these things are really, really bullish, right? So thank you for the insight on that. I want to explain and share some key things with you guys with some actual documents as promised on my thesis on a little bit more about the whole topic of actual documents will show how massive Zebec payroll will be, right? That's what's really, really important. So let's share with you the first one. Let's pull this up. So for one, if you're wondering where this came from, this comes from the Bank of England. And we know that the Bank of England obviously has done collaboration with Quant Network. I'm not trying to make this necessarily a quant video, but it is worth pointing out that they had this 24-page document about the RTGS renewal program. So it is kind of in alignment with what Rue was saying, and obviously what the gentleman, Crypto God X Gold, was saying. So let's get into that for just a brief bit. Policy statements implementing ISO 222 enhanced data in CHAPS. Now, when we get down into it, here's what's really interesting. On page 15 of 24, it says specifically there will be a period of dual running structured and unstructured remittance information until SWIFT switches off empty messages. If you think about it, like we always reference with Ripple, the flip of the switch. They even cite as SWIFT switches off empty messages expected literally this month, the bank will mandate CHAPS DPs to use structured remittance information for all payments when SWIFT switches off empty messages for payments. Now, you may be wondering, like, I don't really get all this. Well, in this document, it specifically mentions some key things about this. So, for one, I want to point out that if you were to read this whole thing, basically it mentions the official policy outlines the phased adoption of ISO 222 in the UK's CHAPS value payment system. And that in itself means emphasizing enhanced data fields like structured remittance and purpose codes, explicitly ties these to what, everybody? Payroll, efficiency. And that is a big deal. Getting further into this, I want to now take you over to this other key area. Let's pull this up. This is from who? This is from SWIFT. This is an actual SWIFT document, not SWIFT blockchain, traditional SWIFT, S.W.I.F.T. In this one, it's about supercharging your payments business with ISO 222. This one was 65 pages. I wouldn't expect you guys to read all 65 pages, but I do want to take you down to here. It says specifically here on page 46 of 65, with ISO 222, you can use enhanced message data to improve your customer insights efforts in a number of ways. For one, gain more insights into customer behavior by using purpose codes and business service codes. Now, again, back to this topic of these specific codes. Why point that out? Well, for one, that's going to allow you to identify critical payments like salaries. Now, did that catch your attention? And LEIs, for example, those stand for legal entity identifiers, extending to remittance structured data by when? November 22nd, 2025. So there's benefits to this, everybody, and this is what people don't realize, because this will include what's referred to as improved reconciliation, and that means reducing the manual intervention and enhanced straight-through processing for corporate payments, and that also means payroll. Now, you may be wondering how so. Let's bring you to the next tab. This is now page 56 of 65 of this document, and what we see here is literally what I just talked about, because if anything, using structured remittance information, corporate finance treasury teams can accelerate the reconciliation of payments and release goods earlier. Is that all we have? No. Page 31 of 65 talks about this specifically, about these dedicated fields. Hear me out on this as well. On this one, when it talks about specifically this, I want to point out that you have where it says dedicated fields for ultimate parties. Greater field length reduces the risk of data truncation. I've been talking about data truncation for the longest time. ISO 222, I think we get something like 10,000 characters. The old model, I don't even know if it was 50. Let's just give it the benefit of the doubt of 100. But again, we're eliminating message truncation because now we have data-rich messages. That is important. The other area I want to jump down to is another key area of this. ISO 222 messages provide opportunity for greater data quality with structured address fields, clear, simple, human intelligible tags for each data element, reducing confusion between names, street names, towns, and countries. And on top of that, when we get into the whole real big thing of payroll, well, guess what we have here? Enter in another particular PDF. This actually comes from, well, let me go up to Baringa, and they point out ISO 222, new language for better payments. And when we jump down into it, does it mention specifically payroll? It does. Why should organizations embrace it? Well, numerous reasons that we outlined, but specifically on page 3 of 12, they have a roadmap for this. So hear me out on this, even though this part's not completely highlighted, part of it is. It says the ECB. So that, for one, is the European Central Bank. Okay, we know that the digital euro is coming very, very soon. Christine Lagarde talked about some of this stuff. But the framework defines a payment scheme as a set of formal, standardized, and common rules enabling the transfer of value. So again, back to Ripple and the internet of value between users by means of electronic payment instruments. In the UK, if you transfer money to a friend via a mobile banking app, the chances are it will go through the faster payment scheme. So again, back to kind of like what Rue was talking about, as well as Crypto God X Gold 589, because they mentioned RTP or FedNow or something like that, right? Or like even FIS, World Pay, fall with a clearinghouse. So to me, this adds up. And then, of course, like it says here, if you run business, and look what it says here, payroll will likely be distributed to employees through the BACS scheme. Any high-value transactions will go through the Bank of England's real-time gross settlement RTGS system, CHAPS. So we're going to pause on that. We have more documents to get into, which will include a little bit more from a standard chartered quotation, as well as back to the whole thing of Baringa, and the icing on the cake will be straight from who? It'll be straight from Oracle. So, Real, some of your thoughts even on this, literally mentioning the whole thing of high value transactions, and of course, like it says, if you run a business, payroll will likely be distributed to employees through the BACS system. Take it away.
Kind of gets into some of what I was talking about in my episode on this. Zebec, the biggest information yet. I went over an interview from the CEO of Zero Hash, Edward Woodford. Okay, and one of the things he mentions the programmable money. That reminds me of the first article or the first thing that you mentioned with Bank of England. He also mentioned directly, he says streaming payments, right? So this really makes me think this might have something to do with, you know, different things that Simon Babakani has said about the DTCC and things involving FedNow, okay, which we also covered in my episode there. But again, all of this kind of goes together because we know the XRP ledger is behind this, right? You need ISO 20022 so you can have the messaging, and then you can stuff the API inside of there and do everything with the messaging, right? So either way, it can be really, really, really lucrative. But the reason why I kind of lean towards the DTCC and the Fed now is because the Zebec notice said big U.S. news. But either way, I think we're really good.
Well, thank you for that, Rue. We do have the icing on the cake for you. And if anything, this helps benefit the channel. So we're going to come right back after these messages. I have many friends that are earning every single day trading futures on BTCC. It's a simple process, and even if you don't want to learn how to trade, you could follow a trader on the site and let him do the trading for you. And again, I'm not trying to have any of you guys use your hard-earned money to lose anything. You don't know what you're doing, don't jump into this, but there is money to be made, and don't use your nest egg for leverage trading. Use a separate portfolio. But I suggest learn how to trade. Earn you some extra money on BTCC. It's easy, you don't have to KYC, and you don't have to use a virtual private network VPN. This is a wonderful site. They've been around since 2011. Give them a shot. Also, when you earn that extra money, you can store that on your DCENT wallet. The DCENT wallet was not affected by the XRPL debacle, where the backdoor of many wallets was open and there was a breach. So DCENT wallet was not affected by that. DCENT wallet is as safe as you keep your seed phrase. It's a wonderful product, and you can get the discount by using the link. It's the only way to get the affiliate discount, and that is to use an affiliate link. So that link is popping up on the upper right side of your screen, and it is the one that you will use. You will also get free shipping. Pick you up a DCENT wallet today. Secure your assets. If you don't have them stored in a wallet and sitting on exchange, then you're at risk. So pick you one up today. Thank you. All right, welcome back, everybody. So what we're going to do now is we're going to jump into the promised documents that we were talking about earlier. Let's pull that up. So for one, we established this, which was great in regard to specifically what you saw from Baringa. Now let's jump over to a little bit more of Baringa, but look what it mentions here from Standard Chartered, because Standard Chartered, Rue and I both cover this about they realize that we're not going to kick the can down the road any more further when it comes to ISO 222. It's a real thing, and it's a hard date. So by creating a common language and model for ISO 222, it will significantly improve the quality of data across the payment ecosystem. Richer, structured, meaningful data will enable new client experiences while improving compliance and efficiency. This comes from Stephen Pearman, who's head of cash product over at Europe at Standard Chartered. Okay, and again, why am I pointing out Europe? Again, the ECB, European Central Bank, come out digital euro. We know that Ripple, Hedera, and Quant will actually lead the charge when it comes to that specifically. But again, what about the whole thing like with Zebec and whatnot? I hear you. It says here on page 6 of 12, enter ISO 222. The standard enables payments to carry 10x more data in structured and consistent format. The fact that it is a standard means all parties across a payments chain, again, all across the payments chain, will use and understand the same data fields and structure, creating more consistency, harmonization, and interoperability. You know, if you really think about it, this is why we do a lot of these outlines. This is why we try to connect so many things for you guys, because when you get more into it, you will realize specifically that, yeah, you know what, this really does make some sense, because if anything, it's realizing that, yeah, you know, all these reports do show that ISO's 222 structured elements outperform legacy formats, and that's the bottom line. And we have, of course, more examples of that. When we talk about purpose codes, when we talk about improved reconciliation, all this basically means that the standard in itself enables payments to carry, like we mentioned, the 10x more data, and that basically means that it positions payroll as a prime use case for data-rich standards. That in itself means reducing reconciliation errors in bulk employee payments. So I did want to focus a little bit more about that, and again, bring it to you. The other area of focus, again, from Baringa is page 3 of 12, specifically mentions data rich. So why should organizations embrace any of this? Simple answer is more data. The infrastructure and messaging used today don't align with the explosion in big data. and the needs of consumers to know more specifics beyond how much, where to, or where and by when. As a bank or a business, uh, if you can imagine having, you have one message package. It specifies an entire shopping basket. Again, back to the reference even from Ripple about a commodity or a basket of currencies. I mean, all these things match up. But anyway, the sustainability of the product set bought, associated insights such as time spent before completing the purchase, or even specific instructions like when depositing these funds, also inform the beneficiary that there will be another 3 payments tomorrow of a similar value. So again, even with Zebec, the connections to Ripple, the connections to Stellar, again, the internet of quote unquote value. ISO is data rich, which should be music to the ears of customers and banks. One more area here I want to point out: what's the problem with existing standards? While current standards work for money movement, they just don't meet the needs of the modern data rich world. Uh, very, very true. And that's something we definitely want to get into. Now, as promised, Oracle has a big thing to be mentioned here. This comes from this Oracle document, literally straight from their site. It's actually referred to as creating payment files, ISO 222, and reports in global fintech. What we have here is where Oracle points out creating payment files, ISO 222, and reports in global payroll. Notice how it says payroll. This should be your icing on the cake for Switzerland. All right, so within the Swiss payroll application, employees' payment information gets transferred beginning all the way back in the first of 2018. And you see here that even to where we're at now with the SWIFT document, with the other one from Baringa, we see that November 22nd, 2025 is the date that this is mandated, right? So ISO 222 replaces former DTA, data exchange by file, and the EPO, electronic payment order format. So if you think about it, if it's going to replace this format, well, what about, for example, even basic things like your ATMs? What about the whole basic thing of when somebody does touch and tap? This applies to so many things, and this is where we get the narrative of where people say specifically, you will use blockchain and distributed ledger technologies. You will use these technologies, whether it's connected to Quant, Ripple, and so on, and not even realizing what rails that you're on. This is a perfect example of it. And if anything, back to the whole thing of what, everybody? Reports in global payroll for Switzerland. What about worldwide? And as we know, Oracle is a key partner to the Quant Network, and they're a key partner to JP Morgan. I'm going to kick it over to Rue for some final thoughts in regard to all the findings in today's video. Take it away.
Now, Zebec might have mentioned in their little X posting that it's US, but this whole system is global and it's a global standardization. So when we do payroll now, which one of the things I was talking about with my people on my episode of this is that it's global payroll and that you're going to get rid of all these intermediaries. So it's going to be very lucrative and very important for the banks. And Zebec is at the genesis of money in that the moment you get paid, you're creating a salary or the moment you do work, you're getting paid, right? Um, so their super app is going to be very, very important when it comes to this because now you can spend the moment you work. And all of the articles that Maximus mentioned there, um, we have ISO basically standardizing the whole messaging globally for banks. So now you can get rid of all these third parties. A bank in England or a bank in New Zealand or whatever, they're going to understand whatever message is sent from the bank in the US because ISO 20022 standardizes all of that. And you put Quant on top of it, you can put an API in and do anything you want, get any type of data you want. And I'm glad to be an investor in Zebec because it's at the start of this for retail as far as the moment you work, you're getting paid. And that's being converted into various stable coins that can go anywhere. So yeah, love it.
Very cool. I actually meant to share this, and I need to do it real quick. I wanted to point out some significance about this. So, for one, if you were to go over here and mentions specifically the global payroll, Switzerland has long experience in preparation and communication of XML files. Well, you think about, like, again, we're talking about the central bank of central banks, these Swiss banks, right? Like, think of how many times people just reference Swiss banks in general, but it mentions here specifically this whole thing of XML files and the requirement for integrating with ISO 222. Sometimes people miss this stuff. I just want to just take a brief moment to basically explain this. So for one, we know that ISO 222 replaces former DTA exchange by file and the EPO, if you're wondering, electronic payment order. That format in itself is part of what is referred to as GP Switzerland. I know it sounds nuts. It supports the following payment types. They include domestic garnishments and foreign SEPA transfers. Quant has a key connection to SEPA. Some people call it SEPA. But the files that are generated using the Swiss XML dashboard framework are validated against what's referred to as PAIN 001 through 03 and 02 XSD. I know it sounds nerdy, but bottom line is it enables structured data for garnishments, cross-currency transfers, and detailed reporting via BI Publisher. Just something you want to inject right there?
Yeah, XML is a very, very easy syntax. I don't know if you guys know this about me, I'm a coder, but XML is an easy syntax to kind of configure messages in. The internet uses it, every place uses it. It's either XML or JSON, and that makes it very easy to transport, very easy to send to and fro in this XML format, and it's very readable. So bottom line there is it makes it easier for these messages to communicate them, putting them in XML format. So again, that makes me really think that the Overledger is involved there based off the stuff Max has shown me with Pipe Dream and things like that. All of that stuff seems to be in XML format. So that'll make it very easy to be read by anything, the internet, everything. So yeah, another place where standardization is very paramount. If I was to use an analogy, back when cars were first started, all the car parts were like different, and then they ended up standardizing them, and now every engine can be fixed relatively the same from any mechanic. So now any bank can send to any other bank without it having to say, okay, well, is this in Russian? I'm English. I can't understand this. No, it's in the standard. This is in standard format that every computer is going to understand, every system is going to understand, and it's going to cut out time, effort, and money and maintainability of the code. Just a win, 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 win.
Yeah, absolutely. Rue mentioned specifically like global, and they do reference this. So what Rue mentioned is correct. Oracle backs up literally what he just said without even officially knowing it. And the whole thing, the steps, prepare dashboard for Swiss DEX standard domain. Again, what Rue said about standards, the navigational path will be a global payroll. Notice how it says global payroll and absence management authority, correspondence, like with the month, preparing files. And again, global payroll, all these things check mark with Oracle. Like, I don't know if people realize how major that is. And if you think about, like, when we talk about cross currency transfers and detailed reporting via a specific BI publisher, while it doesn't explicitly compare data richness, we share these files and documents with you, actual documents, not necessarily retweets, nothing against retweets, but these are actual documents. So I hope you guys appreciate this because, again, while not it doesn't explicitly compare, data richness, you better believe it demonstrates practical enrichment through support for garnishment details and external transfers, which legacy formats like DTA, if you've studied it, handle less flexibility. Bottom line is this, everybody. These documents collectively show ISO 222's role in embedding richer structured payroll elements, for example, remittances, the references, the purpose codes for salaries, and party identifiers. And the bottom line is to streamline processing. Don't forget that either, because for implementation, we have to reference the nerdy stuff like PAIN 001 for credit transfers. And at the end of the day, we're glad to bring you, as the saying goes, the actual receipts. Or in this case, the actual documents. So I know it's a little lengthy with a deep dive, but that's what we do, and that's okay.
Pause.
Go ahead.
Pause. I know
Oh,
it's a little lengthy.
yeah.
Pause.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's all right. So what I was just saying is, it's just trying to give you guys a little bit difference from everything else you've seen by giving you actual documents. Because I mean, sometimes people want to see the documents. That's all it is, and it really does pound home everything. Oracle, Swift for crying out loud, and especially the document from the Bank of England. Those three are the main ones that a lot of people have been wanting to see. And maybe a lot of people don't want to see it, and they get bored with it. But there it is. You can't deny that, and especially when it comes to the whole thing of global payroll as defined by Oracle. So do us a solid. If you listen to the entire outline, type in this key phrase into the comments, and that is global payroll, because we have countlessly seen examples from Zebec when it comes to ADP, as well as a lot of the other newer integration. They stand at the forefront for specifically payroll. And wow, to see ISO, those documents specifically mentioning payroll, I could put two and two together and realize that there's a mandate that's going to happen, and Zebec realizes that, and that's our own 2 cents. That's the way we see it. So glad to obviously bring it to you guys. Glad to be with Rue once again. If you're watching from my channel, give him a follow over on his. It's at Blackrue, and he can be followed over on YouTube and the X platform. May the Lord bless you all. We truly mean that. We'll see you on the next one. Over and out.